to another version of episode of Chris's Chat and Babble. I've got Brian Smith back with me for a third chat with myself. We have a fair few of these planned. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you, Chris. I hope we're getting somewhere and making sense for some people. You never can tell. I'm enjoying it.
No, we never can tell. And I was going to say, and let's face it, if the two of us are enjoying it, well, what's better to keep, two people happy? There we go. But if we can spread a little bit of information, then that would be good. So look, what we're going to be talking about here, I'm looking down at the notes here, target topics. Where do I get all the tasks from? Great question there, and be interested in that response definitely. How come my plan has 528 tasks and yours has 3,249? Something I think we've all seen. PSI, probability of success indicator. It's just a simple little request from the customer. Oh, the stories we can tell about this one. And then finally, Oracle management needs us to help them out a little. Okay. So I can't do that quite as well as you can in your voice. So yeah, let's What? So the project we're talking about. What was this project? Spell it out for us.
We put together a kind of a model project, nothing real, and we had a situation where this project was going to implement CCMB standalone. It starts on the 1st of January. It finishes on the 31st of March the following year. It's a 15-month project. We're going to have about 11 staff on it. We've got a few names that we know. And where are we up to? One of the things that I did say in our last chat, I talked about what I see, for me, as the benefit of nicknames. Now, the one thing I didn't say to you, which I have to say really, is if you're playing a game of nicknames and you think you're going to, and you get pushback from one or more people about it, like that'll be Mr. Casanova to you. Oh, okay, Jim, if that's how you feel about it, you've got to stop. Don't use it. You'll have to find other ways to engage with them and make them feel part of the team, blah, blah, blah. Because the last thing you need at the outset of a project is to get people offside. You know what happens if you're too offside? You get a red card. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's that. And look, Brian, you make that comment, but I think that's true in the whole world, isn't it? You've got to try and get on well with people. You're not always going to be able to succeed,
Absolutely.
And one size doesn't fit all, does it? Because if it does, every single project would be written off the same plan, and it would always work out perfectly. And we know that isn't always the case.
Yep, we do. So, given what we've just gone through, 15 months and 11 staff, what is it that we know about that as a PM? As soon as I get hold of some information, I start thinking about it. What does that mean to me in terms of the running the project, planning the project, getting people on board? So one of the things we know at this point, because it's 15 months, we know we've got roughly 455 days. We talked about calendar days. We talked about that last time on the basis that we don't work weekends. And then there's all that time that you lose along the way with volcanoes blowing up and all that stuff, and you can't get into the project, and it's a nightmare. So we've had fun. That's another story. That was Estonia. Okay, so given that we've got 11 staff, we talked last time about the fact that I generally allow between 5 and 6 man-hours a day from each, productive man-hours from each of the guys, because we lose too much around the coffee machine, blah, blah, blah. Smoko, we talked about that too. I hope you've given up.
Oh, absolutely.
So anyway.
Yeah, no, Brian, I haven't given up. I'm just not having my next one, and that's been 12 years.
That's the trick, mate. That is the absolute trick.
There
that
we
was
go.
My trick. Okay.
Who taught me that, Mr. Smith? Yeah.
I wonder who told you that. Okay, so we've got 11 staff, 5.5 hours a day. which gives us a rough between 5 and 6. We've got 8 of the customer staff to come on board. The customer, by the way, just to remind you, is Columbia Gas and Electric Company. They're a utility company.
Yep.
So we've got 31,559 man hours to play with. Now, if we look at the costings, we go down the path of our standard approach. And I've chucked some figures in here for want of something better. So we have 11 staff, 302 actual days that we're going to work. Gives us 3,322 man days at $1,000 a day plus 250 expenses. We never got the 250. In fact, we never got the 1,000 either. Somebody got it, but not us. Okay, and then we'll make an allowance of 500 a day for travel. So our starting budget works out, if we add a bit so we'll add 12 grand for incidental expenses, and we're left. Then we know at that point our budget is 4,494,500, more or less 4.5 mil. Now we know that we want to make a 30% margin for profitability. If we don't make 30%, you can forget it. We shouldn't be doing what we're doing. So a minimum of 30% is what we're looking for. And that means that we have about 5.8 mil would be the costing that the project was based on. And that's what they would have taken to the customer and said, well, it's going to cost you 5.8 mil plus. And there's all the other stuff that went into it. And if you remember, we started out at 11.5 mil, finished at 9.5 mil. And both of those figures are a million miles away from 5.5, or as I've got to play with, 4.5. So there we are.
So do you think it's going to be enough then, with all said and done? So I got 3 different figures here. So yeah, I'm not confused. I'm just not quite understanding it.
It's not enough at this point. We're nowhere near far enough down the track, but we can begin to kind of look at the size and shape that we're going to be dealing with. Now,
so is this a problem that young project managers have? And I mean young in terms of inexperience, because if I'm sitting here, I'm trying to build a garage, I'll sit here and go, right, okay, it's going to cost me this. Here's my sum. And I might end up, the 30%, whether that's contingency or whether that's, I sit there and think I'll add a little bit extra in. So I've ended up with £5,500, say, rather than 5.5 million. My garage isn't that good. But how as an inexperienced person are you meant to know that isn't enough?
Well, that's the point. I'm not saying it's not enough at this point. What I'm saying is I don't know enough about the project in order to say I can deliver it for that, right? They've given me some of the yardsticks. They've told me I'm going to have 11 people to do it. I've got 15 months to get it done. I know I've got to deliver it, blah, blah. What does that deliver me? That 31st of March. Does that mean that's the go live, or does it mean it's the end of the project? If it's the end of the project, how long's the post-implementation support, and and when is the actual go live, and so on and so on. And we'll come to that shortly. But
so this is kind of one of the mistakes that you can easily make and think, right, okay, it's going to be 5.5 million. No, you don't know enough now, so don't open your mouth at that point and commit.
Yeah, don't commit yourself, but look at it up here and go, okay, so I've got a yardstick I need to be playing with. Actually, there is one thing about this. When you manage your project, you're always managing the tasks, you're managing the resources, you're managing your estimates, how much do I think it was, how much have we actually used, blah, 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 blah. You have to remember, at the end of the day, it's all about that, but don't lose sight of the fact that it's 4.5 mil, because that is what's going to get you the next project from your bosses. Because if you can deliver, let's say we can deliver it at 2.5, right? we've increased their 30% margin to maybe 32.5%. They're not going to give me a kick up the ring for that, but they might get me another project. And I might be able to say, well, Brad, you know what? I think I should be getting a little bit more of this 4.5 mil if I'm that good. So never lose sight of what the bottom line is, although if you deliver the project, if you plan it properly and you deliver to the plan, then it's a fait accompli. 4.5 is what it's all about. End of story. Now, let's just crack on. I'll forget about, I did make a slight aside the other day when I said I get to be a bit devious with things, particularly when I get to the area of official numbers. So officially, I'm going to argue that my 11 people are going to need to do 6.5, 7 hours a day productive in order for us to deliver this thing. And that's going to get me, instead of our 31,500 hours, I'm going to be asking them for 37,300, because I'm going to bump it up. And that's going to give me a bit of a margin, bit of a contingency against when things go wrong. Note, not if, but when. Because as sure as God made little green apples, it's going to go wrong. Something's going to go wrong somewhere. And if it doesn't, you must be doing something wrong. Okay. So now we've got some new numbers to add in. We've got the 31,559 that's going to tell us how much we can play, and 4,494,500, which is the bottom line we've got to play to. We can't be over that. Well, we can, but we don't want to be. So you asked, is it enough? Well, now that we know that number, it just might be, but we still don't know for sure. Suffice to say, we've got the boundaries and limits that we're going to play the game to, and that's about. You'll also note that these are the limits that you are going to be measured against. Whether you succeed or not, partly from your own company's point of view, is going to be, did you make it within the boundary of those numbers? From the customer's point of view, he just wants to know that it's there and it works and that you did it on time and you're not asking him for any extra money. That's all he wants. And if you plan it properly, you'll deliver it. You'll deliver it on time. You'll deliver it to a degree of quality that he will be happy with, and you won't be asking him for any extra money. Apart from the next project, which you have manufactured as you put the base one together. You know, every time he comes to you with could we just, there's a great idea, write it up. Note, mate, we have to get the base in place before we can play games like that. You write it up, I'll look after it, and we'll come back to it once we're done. And all those ones that we put in the locker or in the filing cabinet, they're the ones we bring out at the end of the game and say, oh, what do you want to do about all these? And there's our next follow-on project.
So this is all about, if you want, making sure that, scope creep doesn't happen during the initial phase, but then comes in as a phase. Then okay, so now you want it pink, and now you want it with this, and now you want it with that. Okay, so right, so we got a base project. You got the parameters set up. What do you do now? How do we go forward from here?
Right. So what we're going to talk about now is some of the tools and techniques and experiences I've had in the past about how do we actually get this thing together and start going forward with it, and what happens if, and that's where we'll get to the end. So First, how do you know what to do? And I think a lot of new players miss the one big trick, which is you have to get a copy of the signed contract. It is vital, fundamental. You must get a copy of that signed contract. And when you've got it, don't put it in the drawer. Don't hang on to it. You have to go through it. I would go through it twice. I would read it once. I've done 13, 14 projects. I would always get that contract, and even the last one, read it twice. I would read it once to say, okay, I got the shape. They didn't probably sell me down the river, but they may have. I'm not sure about that, and that. So when I read it the second time, I'm going to make two lists as I read it. One list is going to be everything I understand that they said, this is what it will deliver. You'll deliver this. So they're looking at me and I'm saying I'm going to deliver that. That's what they want me to deliver. And on the second list, it'll be all the stuff I don't understand. You know, all that gobbledygook they go on with. And the trick then is to take that second list and go and talk to the salesman, to your chief, to the sponsor, to anybody who'll sit down with you long enough to say, what the hell does this mean? You know, what I'm trying to do is to find out whether this gobbledygook actually screens 3 more tasks that they've committed me to. You know, I need to understand.
But you've got a tyranny of the immediacy, haven't you? Because the project started the 1st of January.
Yep.
Typically, and in your experience, at what point do you get a copy of this contract? Is it pre-1st of January?
Oh, yeah.
Because my concern is the tyranny of the immediacies. You're sitting there, you've got your 11 people, and let's say you've only got 5 of them because I haven't given you the other 6. And they're sitting there going, what do we do now, Brian? And you're going, well, hold up.
I'm not there yet. We're at the 15th of December, right? The contract has just been signed.
Okay, so this is way...
The contract's just been signed, and I'm you know, they've put my name in the frame, and the customer, you know, may or may not know me from Adam, but my name's in the frame. And I'm saying to the salesman and my boss, where's the bloody contract? Show me the contract. You know, I want the contract. And then I haven't got the people yet. I mean, they've told me I'm going to have 11 people, blah, blah, blah. They haven't told me who they are yet. Probably I haven't got a clue who half of them are. But I have a shape in my head of what they'll be, who they'll be. I'm going to have someone who's really cluey, and he's going to be my lead architect. I'm going to have 1 or 2 architects underneath him to help out and do the design work that has to be done. I'm going to have 3 or 4 developers who can actually take the concepts and turn it into code, change the system and deliver it, test it and deliver it to them. That's what and I'm going to have a super techie. In the case of our example, he's called bolts, nuts and bolts. I need somebody who really can get into the nuts and bolts for me if we have a problem, and I can guarantee we're going to have a problem with the migration, and I need nuts and bolts for that. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't have the people. So I've got this second list. I've been through it, found out most of it's gobbledygook. There's 3 extra tasks in there. And so now what I do is I add the bits that they masked in list 2 that I now know about. I put them on list 1. And now I go with list 1 and I sit down with my lead architect. Who the hell is my lead architect? Get him in here. I want to talk to him now. And sit down with him, and I'm going to go through each of these tasks that I've got, these deliverables, and you know, I'm going to ask him, like, what the hell does that mean? You're the one with the experience. What do we have to do to deliver this? They say, oh, you have to interface with the customer's MDM. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I have to sit down with the lead architect and say, what does that mean? What are the jobs we have to do to see that interface actually works. And how does it actually work? So what does it actually mean? What jobs are we likely to need to do to deliver this particular task? Who in our 11, and you've got the 11 names, mate, haven't you? Yes, I have. Okay. So who are we going to put to work on? Which one of these resources is going to be the guy that we get to do it? Well, we're going to need somebody up front to do the architecture. We're going to need somebody to talk to and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, so who are we talking about? So he gives me 3 names. I'll put the 3 names down against that task. How long will it take? Now, here's the big problem. How long is it going to take? Well, as Chris Wetherill would say, how long is a piece of string? It just takes forever.
Twice the end from one end to the middle. That's the only answer I can give you. Doesn't help you get there.
That's true. We'll come back to that one. But the one other one that's really important to ask and talk to the lead architect about is, how do we know when we're finished? Like, what says it's done? What says it's done? Well, obviously, we've got it coded, we've got it tested, we've packaged it, we've given it to the customer's tested it, and they've said, okay, so it's one of those that tells us it's done, right? Yeah, right. Okay, who has to tell us? And so on. So now we get the estimate problem. So now I'm getting Chris Wetherill involved again. How the hell do I do that? How do I do that? So, Chris, a quick word about my technique, right? How long is it going to take me to draw up this plan?
No idea. Too many.
Okay,
yeah.
No idea.
Not
right,
a clue.
And that's reasonable. Okay, let's say it's got about 1,000 tasks in it. How long do you think?
Not a clue.
I'm
not doing very well here, Brian. Give me an easy one.
Are we talking 6 months, 3 months, a month? How long?
Less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months. Okay. Less than a month? Are we talking 2 weeks? A week? Half a day?
A week. A week.
So, technique works, doesn't it?
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, touche.
And that is a technique that I have worked over and over and over again, and it puts you well into the ballpark, because these guys, you say, you've got this job to do, and it works as well. We're in the middle, so you've started this task this week. Yeah, mate. Yeah. How long you spent? Oh, I spent a couple of days on it. So is it finished? Oh, no, shit, nowhere near finished. Oh, so how long have we got to go? This is a big job. This is going to take, I've no idea. It's a big job. Well, are we talking 3 months to finish it? Oh, shit, no. A week? No, it won't be a week. Maybe a couple of days. So I've gone from an estimate to complete that's like 3 months or however long, and now I know he's got 2 days on it. What's 2 days mean? 2 days means 11 hours to me. So I could say to him at that point, so what do you reckon? 2 days, 8 hours, 16 hours, you reckon? And he goes, oh yeah, 16 hours. Yeah, it'll get done in 16 hours. Okay, to me, 16 hours, that's 3 days. And so now I'm refining, I'm working with him, and we're getting there. And he knows he's got 2 days to get it done.
So basically, you've been doing agile project management from before it was called agile, because that's what it is. It's all down into short sprints. Yeah. So are we talking to the founder of agile?
No. I haven't. I have to tell you, I haven't been engaged with Scrum or Agile or any of those officially or directly. This is just the stuff that I used to do in terms of the way I approach the whole project, and not isolating bits and saying, yeah, we'll sprint with that bit and then we'll come back and sprint with that bit and so on. Don't do it like that. I've laid out the plan from top to bottom. A lot of people don't agree with it, but I lay it out from top to bottom. And as I've said in the past, the thing is, if I start at the front and I finish at the end, and I do every task in between, and every task gets done on time to my estimated budget, guess what? I've finished the project. And if I'm halfway through, and this is where the trick is that we'll begin to talk about. Where the trick is if I'm halfway through, am I on plan? Am I on schedule? Am I on budget? And if I'm not, what the hell am I going to do about it? And as I said in one of the earlier sessions we had, the last thing I want to do at this point is change the plan. Because if I stick with the plan, I know when we weren't being stressed and put under a lot of pressure, I know when I said, if I start there and I finish there, then the project's done. And we've made it for the costs and we've made it for everything. And it's a hell of a success and everybody loves me because of it. If I start playing around with that, nightmare time. Where am I? What am I doing? How am I doing it? What comes next? How has this change affected everything else down the line from it? It's a nightmare. Don't change it unless you have to.
So as a PM, is it your job to inspect, not expect? So when someone says they're going to get something done at 2 days or 3 days, how do you know they've completed that?
Well, that's a good question.
Is it a trust thing?
No,
But because this is something I've learned in business. If you expect people, then they deliver something, and you're sitting there go, okay, I expected this. I wanted a cake. You got a cake that's this size. You needed it to be this size. So how do you do that?
So I trust people to the extent that I have tested their performance and result. So somebody says to me, yeah, this will be done in 2 days. I go, okay. Now, I'm going to take that. I'm going to sit down with the lead architect. I'm going to say, hey, Jim, JJ told me he'd have this finished in 2 days. What do you reckon? And Jim says, bit tight for 2 days. I go, okay. But actually, he told me I'm allowing him 3 days. Will that do it? 3 days, 5 hours a day. 5.5 hours a day. Do you reckon that'll do it? Oh, yeah, he'll get it done then. I'm in good shape. And if he delivers, when I go to him on Friday and say, okay, so is it done? And he says, yep. I say, oh, that's good. Tick that box. Because I had him not finishing until Monday. So I'm in good shape. So I can go back to Jim and say, hey, Jim, your estimating's complete crap. He finished it today. And everybody's happy, right? Everybody's happy.
Yeah, but you have a check and balance in there, which is a good thing. So right. So what's the next problem?
The next problem is the one that you get into every day of the week. Particularly if you get parachuted into a project, this should be about 3,500 tasks on this list because it's CC and B, and you can't do it in 10 minutes. So
3,249 according to my plan.
Yeah, okay, that'll do. But you look at the plan. The first thing you're going to do is look at the plan. Has the guy got a plan? And he has, and he drags it out, shows it to you. There's 528 tasks in it. You go, hang on a sec, what's going on here? How come? Where is? And I start looking for the stuff that's missing. And the sort of things that you find missing is there's no task in there for the PM. The PM's working 5.5, 6 hours a day, every day on the project, and sometimes on the odd day on a weekend. And his time's not in the plan. Like, what the hell? He's got to be doing something. So it's got to be in the plan. You've also got the weekly report writing. That's got to be in there. How the hell do you get the weekly report out with no time allocated to it. Meetings.
And these are real problems. These are, I mean, I can't believe that you'd have a project plan which doesn't include the project manager.
But it happens, Chris. I've been there, done it, seen it, and said, where the hell's your time? And they go.
And is this because people are is it deliberately done, or is this a common oversight?
It's a common oversight because they don't see that they're working on the project and they're not taking it forward, where in point of fact they are. They are a key player in it. And the time that they spend on it is key to success and deliverable. You know, you let the techies run wild. This 5 months, this 15-month project's going to take 4.5 years because it'll have all the bells and whistles that nobody wanted, but somebody said, oh, it might be nice if it was colour, if the screens. Well, hang on a sec. We have some French customers. Why can't we put the wording on the screen in French? And that way, like, give me a break. That's not part of what we're doing.
Okay.
The other one that gets missed a lot, because we're not doing it until we get up the other end, is migration. It's not there. Where the hell is migration? And I don't start migration at the other end. I start migration as soon as I've got a vision of what, through the lead architect, of what our database is going to look like, and all the added in bits. So if I've got some idea of the added in bits, then I can start migration, because migration can take forever. And the one thing that you must do is, with migration, you must have 2 or 3 goes at it to weed out all the stuff that they didn't tell you. And you've got to make sure that the migration routines, when it comes to something that it doesn't figure, it can deal with. Generally, what happens is the techies go, oh, well, stop then. No, don't stop. Tell me about that one. Tell me why you can't proceed with it, and then cycle over it and get going and do the rest. I want to know how many I can't convert, and I want to know why I can't convert them. And then I can go back to the customer and say, hey, yeah, guys, you told us this particular field had values of 1 through 4. We've now discovered 5 and 6. What the hell are we supposed to do with 5 and 6? And now we can get the migration tweaked up to deal with that stuff. So migration is a big deal and can be a bigger deal. And not only that, we had a project that I worked on, and we delivered it. Everything was snowy, rosy in the garden. I think we talked about this one other time. We delivered it. The one thing we couldn't get them to agree to was the migration. They ran the project. They put it in place only for their new customers. 12 months on, they had like 5,000 customers on it. They had 2.5 million, I think, customers still on the old system. And they all got canned. Why? We spent 11.5 mil for 5,000 customers. You're kidding me. They wouldn't make the decision, and that's what killed the project. The project itself, from my perspective, was an absolute success. The failure was in our ability to convince them to take the migration. We'd proven that it would work, and they still wouldn't jump. So migration's important, and the test run. One of the things that you have to do, or you will have to do, and that's what Bolts is about. We need to speed up. Generally, you need to speed up the migration, the routines. Oh, the other one is, have you planned in dress rehearsals, or at least rehearsals? The last rehearsal should be a dress rehearsal, but they have to be planned in.
Do you generally find that client side something that's kind of an afterthought, or can be an afterthought? I'm not going to, sweeping generalisms, but yeah.
Yeah, it can be. But if you're going to start at the top left and finish at the bottom right, it's got to be in there because it's got to be done as part of your finishing.
Mm.
You've got to know, this is part of the issue, you've got to know that when you press the button, it's all going to come over, it's all going to be lovely, it's all going to be beautiful, it all works and everybody's happy. And now, 9 o'clock on Monday morning, they're off and running. And nobody has, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, look, this isn't working. Oh, that bit's not working. And the rest of the world is dying. You've got to know that that's not going to be the case. And the only way you can do that is rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and make sure that.
Because then the call staff, let's bring it down to what it actually means in real terms. For CC&B, it's the people, I'm a customer. Hello, I want to change my address. They're the call handlers that need to have this ability. So with the advent now of things like the web front end, has that actually reduced the reliance on that cut over? Has that made it less important because you've now just got a computer doing it rather than a person?
No, because the computer will only ever do what you tell it to do. If you screwed up, it'll screw up. Right? You've got to deal with the fact. You've got to see it cut over. You've then got to test it. And if in fact you're using a website and you're letting the customer do it for himself, you've got to make sure it's absolutely foolproof. My mum had no clue about mobile phones, smartphones, anything. Her phone, you picked it up, you dialed that, and you talked to somebody, and that's how you got stuff done. You didn't have to do it on your own. And if you have to do it on your own and the customer goes, what happened? What do I do now? You lost him.
Yeah.
So it's got to work, and you've got to test it, and you've got to make sure it works. Oh, and there's one other one. Okay. There's one other one that people often get. Go live. Way! What about the post-implementation support? Somebody's got to be there to hold their hand and sort out the issues as they come up. The call handler goes, somebody's got to be able to stand alongside them and go, no, back out, change that, go there. Somebody's got to be there to support them. And at the end of the day, the PM, have to produce the post-implementation report. You'll recall, we talked about this, there's 500 grand riding on it. The last 500 grand, they have to deliver the project report so that they can hand over the last 500 grand. So, some takeaways. I never change the plan. Never change the plan if I can avoid it, because the consequences and the flow-on issues, sometimes more than you can handle. You end up in a bigger mess than you started out with. First one. Sometimes when you're looking at why has he only got these, he's got a task there called interface MDM, and you go, hang on a sec, there are 37 jobs that got to be done in order to make that happen. So where are they? Who's going to do them? How long are they going to take? What plan have you got for them? You need those tasks in there, because if you don't, if you still have the high order tasks, it'll slow down your ability to reflect completion of tasks as you get through those 37. It'll prevent you from assigning discrete resources and distinct resources to each job within that 37. So instead of one person going from there to there, you can maybe play and have 2 or 3 different people make progress in parallel to get it done quicker. And the other thing is, it exposes you to a greater and wider risk. If there's one nigger, or if there's one problem in this wood pile, that's gonna slow down the delivery of that whole lot. at least you can reflect in your plan if they're broken out. All of those are done. This one is what's stopping us from taking the extra step. So it's an issue that you have to deal with. The other thing is the plan has to five a day, 5.5 a day or 5, it's up to you. Maybe 6 if you think that they're really experienced and good people and can deliver. But you have to make sure as the PM when you write this plan, and remember we've got all these tasks now, that you write this plan and we make sure that every resource is utilised 100% of those 5 hours for 5 days a week. If he's not, then you're wasting him, you're wasting your progress, and he'll become bored. And if he's bored, he'll start talking to other people, and now you've got 3 people that are bored and 3 people sitting around twiddling their thumbs and not making progress.
So if you've got a task that's, let's say, a 3-month, you're talking about the MDM one, how do you know someone's doing that then? Because you're just saying, you've got to make sure they utilise, etc., etc. How do you break that task?
Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with my lead architect and my architects, and I'm going to say, listen, there's this task that says we've got to interface with MDM. What does that mean? Now, they'll turn around and say, well, it's a piece of cake. We know that our MDM has got everything in it that it needs to have in it, and the interface between CC&B and MDM is all there. It all works. Everything's wonderful. And I go, yeah, okay, but what about the fact that they've included these new elements in the database, in the CC&B nodes? They've just told us all about this. What about the fact that in their version that they're running at the moment, like they've got these 4 other things in there? What do we do about that? And those are in the database we're going to migrate. What the hell is the impact there? So we need to examine that. We need to talk about it. We need to break it down into those tasks, and then I can start ticking them off as we progress through them. And that's the way. It's like, we're going to implement CC&B. There's a great task. 1 task in my plan.
So do you ever put a time limit on the length of a task?
Yes. Yeah, I will generally never, unless someone twists my arm, I will never have a task in my project that runs more than 5 days. If it runs more than 5 days, then it probably is 2 or 3 tasks that are 2 days, 2 days and a day, 2 days, 2 days and 2 days. You need to break it out because you need to see the progress through those subsidiary tasks.
Yeah.
You can still keep the 5 days there as a high order task, but the subsidiary ones need to be in your plan, and they're the ones you need to be tracking, and you need to be ticking it off and going to somebody and saying, listen, mate, how's it going? Are we winning? Are we not winning? Did you finish that? You were supposed to start that on Monday. Did it get done? Yeah, it got done. Oh, terrific. Great. And so on.
Okay. And that's probably a huge pearl of wisdom there, because I would sit there and think, okay, I'm going to plan this task, put it out for a period of time. And then, of course, what happens is you then get to day 20 and they go, yeah, I'm 5 days behind. And you're like, whoa, at what point did that happen? So I guess that's the experienced man there. So, okay, so you've got all this stuff planned. How do I know it's going to be successful?
Well,
what do I do? What can I do to tip my hand?
Okay, so from the start, there are a number of techniques that you can use to understand where you're at. Now, this goes back to there is no magic board. There is no magic board. There is no gun loaded with 57 magic boards that you can kill everybody with. Doesn't exist. But what you can do is you can...
Hi, Brian Smith.
Well, yeah, you can do that. That would solve your problem. But what we have is one of Fergus O'Connell's little gems is a thing called the project probability of success indicator, the PSI.
Yeah.
Now, basically, this is a risk assessment, if you like, a risk assessment approach. And this is just one. The project management books, and I've got a mountain of them here. Project management books, just about every one will tell you about risk management, how to assess the risks, etc. And you can spend like the rest of your life assessing the risks on your project, or you can spend 5 minutes, or you can spend 2 days, or whatever. It depends on your own approach. I like this one because it runs to about 5 minutes. There are what have we got? I think we've got 10. No, there are 9. There are 9 things to look at. The goal.
9. Okay.
The goal. This is a measure of how well the project goal is defined. So, do you know what the hell you're trying to do at the end of the day? Deliver C, C, and B. Yeah. Okay. Oh, interfaced with MDM, interfaced with the customer's call handling routines, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The task list. How many tasks have you got on here? Like 3,200? Well, you're probably there. Or have I got no plan at all? Now, each of the goal and this task list are estimated. You estimate them out of a score of 20. If you've got a good plan and you're happy with it and it covers what you think is everything that should, given all we've talked about already, then you give yourself a score out of 20 for the task list and a score out of 20 for the goal, if you understand, and you can write down in a fairly succinct sentence what the goal is. So that's 2 lots of a score out of 20.
And is there pressure for people to think that they have to have a 20 out of 20 for each of those?
Yeah, there is. There is. But the key here, Chris, is you can't fool yourself. If you fool yourself, this can't help. Nothing can help if you fool yourself.
Okay.
But if you can't articulate what the goal is, I mean, you know what it is, but you just can't write it down. You haven't got a set of words that you can put around it at this point. Then it's not a 20. It's maybe a 10 or maybe a 15, but it's not a 20, right? If I've got a plan and I think everything's there, and someone like me comes in and goes, how come like 528? Don't think there's enough there, right? That's a 5. If there's no plan, well, I haven't got to it yet. It's on my list. Well, guess what? That's a 0 because you haven't got one. So you really, it's on your list, but your list isn't a plan, and it doesn't tell you what the hell you're going to do, who's going to do it, when it's going to be done by, and how long it's going to take, and how much it's going to cost in effort. This one in here is I found a little bit interesting, and I've always had trouble trying to assign a value. This one is out of 10, and it's called 1 leader. So how many leaders are on this project? You know, and you'll get them. You'll get them. There's me. I'm the leader, right? Oh, but then there's the customer's project manager as well. And then there's the customer's senior analyst. And then there's my lead analyst who keeps telling me what to do. So that's 4. How many more?
Yep. And then I'm busy telling everyone, if you want to be successful, go off and be a leader. So you've got another 9 wannabe leaders.
There you go. So if there's 1 leader, that's a 10. If there's 2 leaders, that's a 4. If there's more If there's more than 2 leaders, mate, that's a zero, because you are going to have so much drama trying to deal with everybody's different perspective and point of view about what has to happen next. Like, that becomes a real issue.
Okay.
Assign the people. You have to
Yep.
assign the people to the jobs. You really do.
Yep.
Question: have we got enough people?
My answer is yes, but I don't quite know what they're going to look like.
Yeah. One of the things that should kind of come together in answer to that question is, we go back to the task list. If we've scored low on the task list, how can we know we've got enough people?
How many? Yeah,
So,
yeah. Is there ever a situation where you have too many people?
yeah.
Is that have you encountered that?
Yeah. We'll talk about that one, because too many people becomes a real pain in the butt for the PM as well. And we'll talk about that one when we get to the bottom, particularly the question about our management sort of come to us and say, hey, listen, we've got a little problem. I need you to help us out here. We'll talk about getting too many people and what you do about that.
Okay.
And I'll come back to it, because there's a whole underlying issue you need to deal with where that one is concerned. Have we got a margin for error in the project? And this one you can score out of 5. You've either got one or you haven't got one. So that means did I add in contingency when I got all the approvals, etc. For me, that's the difference between the 5.5 and the 6.5. So I've bought myself some contingency. Yeah. So if the thing takes a nosedive, I've got somewhere I can go to bring in and push things out a little till I get it back under control and get it going. Risk analysis. Have we done any risk analysis? Probably not. Mostly we don't. We do not do official risk analysis. If we did, we might scare ourselves silly. So we tend not to do it. Not a good plan. It's worth doing, even at the higher level. Give you just one little bit on that. When the risk management people come along, the seagulls, they fly in, they do all that, and they whinge and grizzle about everything, right? The first thing they come with is the risk analysis. They want to see the risk analysis. And you go like, what risk analysis? So, well, are there no risks to this project? And you go, no, this project is going fine. Everything's wonderful. And then we get into the Russian problem where, come 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon, we're off.
Everyone's
we're having
gone.
A party, and like, is that a risk? Yes, it stops your progress. So now, instead of 5 days at 5 or 5.5, I got 4 days at 5.5 every week. And what that tells me is the end date's going that way. We need to do something about it.
Yeah.
Leadership style, another interesting thing. What do you know about leadership style, your own? Are you autocratic, democratic? Are you a hard leader, soft leader? Not only that, but do you know and understand what the different styles are, where they work and where they don't work, so that you can apply them where they need to be applied? If one of your developers is sitting in the corner whinging, crying her eyes out, you've got to be there, and you've got to be going, what's wrong, honey? Tell me what's wrong. See if I can help you. Or on the other hand, listen, don't be an idiot. You told me this project, this task that I gave you would be finished yesterday. And now you're telling me it's not finished and won't be finished until Wednesday. What the hell is going on? These are different styles you need to deal with, different situations, different people, different day even. That's what you have to go. And there are other places where you need to go. Listen, what do we think about this? Let's get together and talk about it. How do we deal with this? Different styles, different situations. What do you know about what's going on? That's a biggie. Are you in touch with the people? Are you in touch with where we're at? Do you understand? Like, how the hell did we get to be 2 months behind after 3 months doing this job? Like, this bloody garage is going to be up. I've got 3 racing cars arriving tomorrow. And so on. What do you know about where you're at? And you give yourself a score out of 10 with that. What are you doing about telling other people about what's going on? You have a responsibility to tell people where the hell things are up to. And this goes a little towards our old snake in the woodpile of bad news is best delivered early. You wouldn't necessarily put it in a weekly report. You go and talk to the man first and say, listen, Jack, we got a big problem here. This is what we're seeing. This is what we think the problem is. This is what we think we can do about it. It's going to take us this long to sort it out. Are you happy with that as an approach and a plan? Not happy that it's wrong, but yeah, I guess so. Okay. Now we can put in a small rider in the weekly report that says we've got a problem with this and we're dealing with it. Done. Nobody has to. You don't have to put his neck in the noose because there's a problem there. So you rate yourself out of 10 on that one. Now, what we do is we add up all the scores from all the 9 factors, right?
Thought there were 10.
No, only 9. Only 9.
Okay, I can't count.
You're right. There's only 9. So what we do is, if there are low scores, that low score will point you at an area that you need to look at because you aren't quite on top of what's happening, or you haven't.
And what's a low score, Brian? Give me a number on that one. So you've got 100 as the top score.
So
what's a low? 50, 20?
Low score, probably 40 and below, right? Okay. If your project's running at about 60, it's not sweet. It's not sweet. You've got some areas and some issues that you probably need to focus on and deal with. If it's 80, yeah, you're okay. Now the thing is, once you've done this, you can then present this to the seagulls when they arrive. They're looking for risk analysis and risk management. Here it is, guys. This is what we know. This is where we're at. This is how we see it. This is roughly, we think this is, we're 80% on top of the log here. And as is their want, they will find reasons why nothing's perfect, right? The definition of a seagull is they fly in, make a lot of noise, shit all over everything and fly out. And that's what they do. Their whole raison d'etre is to find issues so that you can correct them. If they can't find issues, they have no mechanism and no reason to come back.
And is this something, this PSI thing, is this something that you do weekly, monthly, quarterly? How often would you do this? Because it seems it is a moving target, isn't it?
It absolutely is a moving target. I would do it not long after I'd finished the plan, so I can rate myself in terms of what I know and what I don't know. I would do it probably about 3 months in. And if I get a phone call telling me the seagulls are on the way and they'll be here next Wednesday, I'm going to do it on Tuesday. So it's hot off the press, and I'm there and I know what's happening, and I can answer their questions. Right? So be prepared is what I'm saying.
With 13 projects behind you, 14 projects behind you, because the 13th was the 12th one twice. So what have you, is this sort of like a bell curve that, to begin with, you start off at a 40, then you go to a 60, and then you come back down? And is there any particular, have you noticed with your experience that they tend to follow a certain path, or is each one completely different?
It depends. It depends on where you're at in the project, in this project.
Yeah.
That's part of the issue. If I've really got a class team and we're really making progress and we're in the middle of the project, usually we'll be up the top. When you start the project, you can expect that it's going to be a low result, But all that's doing is telling you that the areas you should go and look at. You don't know enough about what you're trying to do. The goal is not enough defined. You don't have agreement of the stakeholders with what the hell it is they expect that you're going to give them. That sort of thing. And that always, at the beginning of a project, that's pretty much where you are. So it'll start off low and it'll rise pretty much like a bell curve. But what you don't want to have happen is for it to go over the top and down. Just because the workload's going down doesn't mean that your knowledge and approach and control of what's going on should likewise dip. I mean, you've gone from having 3 people on board at the start of the project up through 9, now 11, now I've got 18 because the management were being very generous. And now we've delivered, right? Hey, everything's wonderful, rosy in the garden. Now I'm down to 3 people again for the post-implementation support. And now I'm in fact, I've got 2 people doing something, down to 1 2 weeks after the go live, and all I'm doing is writing a damn report. So they're managing. Now we're down to 1 or 2. It just because the state of the resources does that doesn't mean the state of your control and knowledge of the project should do that. And if it's doing that, you need to look at it, mate, because you need to get back on top of what's happening.
Okay. So right, we come up with a good number. I like that. What's next?
Okay. So this one actually happened.
Hope you're not going to give us names.
No, I can't give you names. But here's the story, and this is a real war story, Chris. This is real. So we're about 3 months in to a project that was slotted to be, I think, about 18 months. Let's call it 15 and put it in line with our example. So 3 months in, they come to us and they say, we've just been informed by our experts. We have a number of their experts working with us, and we've been training them and picking their brains for what, when, where, how do they do this, etc. So they say, we've just been informed by our experts on the project that we'll need a long weekend for the implementation. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the 31st of March, which is what we were targeting, isn't a long weekend. But the 24th, 25th, 26th of March is a long weekend. So what we want to do is move it back so the go lives on that long weekend. Is that okay?
Well, it's moving it forward, isn't it? So it's suddenly come back towards you. So you've just now lost a chunk of hours.
Boom, boom. So, as I said, is this a big deal? So what have I responded? My response has been, as it always is, not sure at this stage. Let me take a look at it and I'll get back to you. So, is it a big deal? You bet your sweet people.
You bet it is. Yeah. But your response is, and I guess this is again the experience thing. Why don't you say that straight away? Is that because you don't know?
No, because I'm trying to buy time. I'm trying to buy time.
Okay.
I want to know the issues are, and I want to work out how the hell I get out of it. So I start looking at it. My plan shows that in those 5 days, I'm tidying up answers to the questions that have come out of the user training. Oh, how do we do this? How do we do that? Oh, shit. Yeah, well, we just have to tweak that bit and that stuff. So I'm tidying that up. I'm testing the assessment of the user training. I've got my guys working with the call center people, everybody that's at the front end, saying this is how it works. You've had the user training. Do you understand? Can you show me how you would do? And we're testing it. We want to find out whether that user training was good enough, because that is going to control how many people I need to have available to the post-implementation support. If the user training was complete rubbish, I need my 12 people walking around the call center. If the user training was fabulous and they all know what they're doing, I can put 2 people in the call center and that's it. Anybody can call on them and they'll be drinking coffee and eating biscuits and putting on weight. So I need to do that. I would be solving the lower priority issues, issues that come up. We assign them a priority. The biggies and the littlies must have, or could have, should have, might have, won't have. I'm looking at solving those, the little ones. I'm solving data issues with the migration, the last of the migration. I've done rehearsals and I found out we have not converted 7 customers. Why? Because they've got a value in them that we didn't know about. So we're solving those and tweaking that. We're also, of course, scheduled to run another rehearsal. And we're running, we've got slotted into that 5 days, the final dress rehearsal, which is do the whole bit, bring it live, get 7 of their call center staff in, playing with the system to see that they understand, we can see that they understand, and they can actually do the day-to-day and get their stuff done once we've gone live with it next week. So the other aspect, of course, is if we go back and think about one of the other things we talked about, the 3-cornered hat, right?
Oh, yeah.
At that point in time, I was planning that we had all hands to the pump because we're in that last week. I've got 12 people coming in. I've got to make sure I've got those 12 people there to solve any immediate issues and do all the stuff that we're talking about. So if these guys are shortening my time by 5 days, what does that actually mean? If they're taking the effort, they're taking the 5 days off me, 16 staff for 5 days at 5.5, they're actually stealing 440 man hours off me. Now, can I afford that? Can I afford it? They're stealing.
Probably not.
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
So as I said, is it a big deal now? Yeah, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big deal.
It really is.
Okay.
So what do you do?
Well, that becomes the next question. I start searching for answers. And in this case, I came up with a few. From a scope point of view, maybe we can shorten it. They've taken a point of view and said, oh, well, it's only 5 days and you're 11 months to run, for God's sake, surely. And I go, well, okay. But what am I going to take out to solve the problem and bring everything back by those 5 days? Not only that, when am I going to take it out? How am I going to take it out? What's the impact of taking it out? So that's the scope thing. Then there's the time. Maybe we should look and see whether there's another long weekend somewhere out there, not too far, but somewhere out there that maybe could serve. So maybe it's 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, takes us another 2 or 3 weeks from my point of view. Yes, that'll cost us a bit, but now we have more time for dress rehearsals. That might be valuable. Maybe we can pick up 1 or 2 of these other little issues that they flagged up, and maybe we can run 1 or 2 of those in the extra 3 weeks. So that's a thing. And the other one is, can we get the customer to invent a long weekend? And what's the cost of that? Now, this is what we actually did. We actually got the customer to do this. So basically, we got them to shut down on Friday at 2 p.m. on Friday. They shut down.
Okay.
And we planned for them to come up at midday on Monday. And in doing that, we bought ourselves a long weekend. The thing was, we then had to change the plan so that immediately the shutdown happened, the backup of the database was done, and we started working with the migration. Because migration, as you undoubtedly know, Chris, takes this long. It just takes forever. So we had to start as soon as we can. As it turned out, we started immediately. Things went absolutely swimmingly. I couldn't believe it. We made the conversion. We got it up and running on Sunday at, I think it was about 11. We got their people in. They tested it. We told them they had to be pragmatic about the testing. So rather than, go through this whirlpool of all the if, ands or buts, we said, you need to know that you can work with it on Monday morning, right? Can you answer the questions that the customer's going to ring up and talk to you about? Your bill's wrong, blah, 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 blah. He wants to change his name and address. She's just got married, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So can you do all that? And they tested it, and they came in absolutely. We knew that we were going to be done by about 11. We started giving them warnings. They were on site at 12. They worked through until 6. And they said, and we said,
Hooray.
So 9 o'clock on Monday morning came up. Everything was fabulous. And then I claimed we finished 6 hours early.
Well, you had.
So that was it, and that was a real one.
So you've worked one miracle. Any others?
Yeah, the other one is not so easy. Like this is the second example. The management come to you and they say, listen, we need you to help us out here. And you go, okay. So, and as soon as they ring, you go, uh-oh, here we go. And now they're being very nice, and you're going, shit, now I'm really worried. So the call comes. Let's say they've got 2 resources. They can't do anything with for 2 months. They don't want to get rid of them. They don't want to put them off, but they've got to have them gainfully employed for that 2 months. And you've got a fixed price project, so there's no penalty actually if they give you these resources. It doesn't cost the customer anymore, and the resources are still earning blah, 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 and everything will be wonderful.
Yep.
Do you think we can do that?
Perfect sense from my point of view, Smithy. Don't see an issue so far.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Part of the problem is, for me, anyway, as a PM, saying no to my management is not always a good plan. So I have to find a way to deal with it. I have to find a way to say yes, and deal with it. So, Danny, let me take a look at it and I'll get back to you. Okay? Again, buy some time so as you can look at what your options look like. So on this one, we then go and talk to the lead architect. I would have said at this point to Danny, so who are these jokers? And I've got a list of the names. And if I don't know them, which I probably won't, then I'm going to go and talk to the lead architect and say, hey, listen, Jim, tell me about this. Who are these jokers? This is what's happened. I've had this phone call, blah, 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 2 months. Who are these jokers? Do you know them? Oh, yeah, I know them. If he doesn't know them, can you make a couple of phone calls and find out about them? So then we have a vision. And then when he comes back and says, oh, yeah, I found out about them, or I do know them, I've worked together with them, they're good people. You know, they know what they're doing. Okay, so can we use them for 2 months? Oh, shit, I don't know about that. You know, short term in here. Well, what about if we start migration a bit early? What about if we start doing the analysis on the migration? It's a discrete task. We can just push them aside, let them get on with it. So long as we make sure they document what they're doing, if they bugger off in 2 months, we'll have all the documentation. We've made a start. What about that as a plan? Oh, yeah, probably that'd be all right. We could probably make that work. Okay. So now I get back to my friend Danny. So, questions for Danny then go like this. If I take them, what sort of damage are you going to do to my budget? Like, he's not going to give them to me for no cost at all. So what's going to happen to my budget?
And is this because you've got expenses? You know, I know in the previous company, the way it was, hours went in and that comes off the percentage of complete and all the rest of that. So you book an hour, so it isn't free. There's a cost to everything.
Absolutely. Plus there's the expenses, the hotel, etc., the flights, the whole bit. 2 months they're going to be flying in and out. You're like, we're looking at big money for flights alone. Then there's the hotels, da 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 da. So yeah, I want to know what damage it's going to do to my budget. And we can say to him, look, we know, you know the margin's tight. You can't damage my budget and expect me to roll over and be happy with it. So what's going to happen? How reliable is this 2 months? Are we talking 2 months? Are we talking 2 weeks? Are we talking 12 weeks? Are we talking 10 weeks? What are we talking about? You know, you said about 2 months. How reliable is this 2 months? If I'm going to get sorted out for 2 months' work, I want 2 months. I don't want 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
And of course, the last question is, well, can you get them here for Monday? Because I've worked out what I'm going to do with them, right? So he comes back and he says, they're both standard cost resources. So it's the usual, you know, you book an hour, you lose an hour. He said, but what I'll do is I'll brief risk management and our operations management to say, you're helping us out. Don't give him a hard time over the budget. And my response to that is, you bet your sweet bippy, anybody comes through that door and they're talking to me about my margin, I tell you what, I'm going to reach into the drawer, get the 45 out, and I'm going to start killing people.
Because you've effectively, that person's effectively just spent $50,000 just on expenses and flights, just getting those people there and back for that period of time, let alone, you know, fully burdened cost of $100 an hour, just for argument's sake. 40 hours, that's 4,000 times by 2, that's 8,000 times by 8 weeks.
Exactly.
$110,000, $120,000 gone like that.
But can you just help us out with this little problem?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Hey, Brian, have you got $120,000 spare you can just give to me? I mean, it's a great question to ask.
Not a problem. So he comes back and he tells me, yeah, he can get them here, all that. You can have them there on Monday, blah, blah, blah. So wonderful. I'll look forward to seeing them bright and early on Monday morning. And I mean bright and early on Monday morning. We've got a Monday morning meeting, and I want them there because I want to introduce them around, and I want to then brief them about what the hell the project's all about and what they're going to be doing to me. You can't just bring them in and go, I'll just leave them sit in the chair over there.
Yeah, sit in the corner. Let's get on with it. Yeah, okay.
So the questions that come with this, like, did you get the messages from this lot? Never say, doesn't matter whether it's your management or theirs. You never go, okay. Just doesn't happen, right? There's always look for damage limitation. Always look for, how do I reduce the damage that this is going to do to me? And that's where you go back to the three-cornered hat: scope, time, budget, cost. Those three things. You change one, and guess what? It'll affect the others. You have to find a way to meaningfully get on with it and blend it in. And it doesn't matter whether it's them or us, and that's it. So they're the gems, if you like, from this lot.
Do you know what, though? Because it's interesting, Brian, because when you say that stuff, I've never really thought that through before, because I'm guilty of having done something similar to that.
Of course you have.
With you in the
You're
past.
Part of the management.
Yeah. And yeah, you see, from my point of view, I'm sitting there thinking, hey, I'm doing you a favour. And yeah, I've never, just sitting here and just doing those costs with you, I suddenly sit there and think, yeah, great favour that, isn't it?
Well, it's not all bad news, Chris. If I can take these extra resources, blend them in with what I'm doing, and maybe go forward.
Yep.
The thing is, what I can't do is put them in here with what I'm doing now, because that will upset all my planning and everything else. Don't change the plan, right? What I can do is change the timing.
Yeah.
So I pick it up and I put them down over there and get something done early that I'm going to run up to anyway, right? I can do that. I can play with that game. What I can't do is drop them in the middle of where I am and expect that everything will be perfect.
And so in that particular case, Brian, was it a benefit to you? Did it bring the plan forward? Did it help you out? Did it eat into less of your contingency?
It helped us out. It ate into our contingency a little bit, because when they'd gone and we had to pick up the migration, when we came to that part of
later on,
we had to. It was a case of, Jesus, why did he do that? We had to become familiar with the approach that had been somewhat pre-worked and forecast, right? So we had to come to grips with that, and that took us a little bit of time. Oh, geez, I would never have done it like that. Well, yeah, but we started down the path and we've told people, so we're gonna run down there. Oh, yeah, but it's going to take us longer. No, it won't. Just get on with it. You had to. It did hit our contingency there, because there was a period where we had to catch up, right? We'd run that bit, we had to catch up. So we didn't actually get started until down here, and that gap we lost to contingency. But was it a help? Yeah, I guess it was, because if nothing else, we got a different point of view. We're all in this line and this narrow alleyway with a focus that's down there at the light at the end of the tunnel, and suddenly we had a light shining from somewhere different, and that's not always a bad thing. In fact, in this case, it was a good thing. One of these days, remind me to tell you about the tunnel and pit method of project management.
Okay, well, we'll move on to that. No, it's just I'm interested in it from my point of view, because I've always said it, and one of the things I never liked as a resource manager was having someone sitting on a bench when we had a fixed price project, because we're paying these people salary regardless of if they're on a project putting tangible output in or not. And actually, sometimes the worst thing is you put a resource, they don't do anything, they get bored, then that's not good for them. Actually, put them in a project, get them more experience. The worst they can do is have 2 months of real work. There's only so much training and reading all of us can do. So yeah, it's just quite interesting actually. Really hearing the nuts and bolts of this from the other side, said he, throwing his pen on the floor. Yeah, so no, that's as I said, just completely different way of. I haven't thought about it before that way. So right, you've continued to educate me. I've
So that,
look, mate. Thanks for that one.
please.
Well,
At least,
yeah, it's
at least you will understand the next time it happens, and it will happen again, and you'll have to do it. But at least you will appreciate that the PM can be a little reticent about it. It's not all good news for him.
Yeah, I think I've always appreciated the project manager on that side, just maybe not understood it. It's like everything, isn't it? If you can understand it, you can then really live it. As they said, walk a mile in a man's foot, shoes, and then see what it's like. So, all right, look, Smithy, once again, fantastic. Yeah, we keep saying we're going to take an hour to talk these ones through, and I don't think we ever can.
How long did you take? Oh, jeez.
Hour and a half, but hey, there was definitely some good content in there. So but look, like all these things, I mean, I'd never realized that I've seen the risks, I've seen the traffic lights, etc., but not the level of detail that you go down to, and actually what you're doing. And having read fast projects, I mean, I think part of my problem was I read as a theory book, not as a practical book. So I never got, I've read that part, but not actually put it into play. But it's interesting, but it's something I've been taught in business is, inspect, don't expect. And this is exactly it. How often do you actually sit there and look and go, right, how can I put numbers on this? Give me a number, and then that way, yeah, I can plot, are we doing well or badly?
Next time round, we'll talk about the numbers and how I get them and what they talk to me about and what we do about it. We can do that because that's a little world in itself, and you have to do it. You did ask the question, is this once a week or once a month, once a year? When is it? Once a quarter? In fact, I would do the project numbers every Friday without fail, because that meant that on Monday morning, when we had the Monday morning kickoff meeting, I knew where we were at. And it allowed me then, with some measure of impunity, to ask everybody else, well, what are you doing? Like, where's that up to? Have you done that yet?
Yeah.
Is that complete? And if they came back, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, this is where we're at.
Well, I love that I've learned another thing there, that 5 day, never give someone a task longer than 5 days. I never thought about that.
Well, that's my rule, mate. That was my rule, and I find that it works. And it's like 5 hours, 6 hours, 5.5 hours a day. You can plan quite easily on 8 hours a day. You can plan on 16 hours a day. It ain't going to happen, buddy. You can plan on 24 hours a day. That ain't going to happen. If you plan on 5, you'll find that you're making the progress as you planned it to be. At the end of the day,
as it comes out in the project plan.
At the end of the day, you might be on your 15-month project. You might finish 5 days early. Nobody's going to complain about that.
No, it's a good problem to have. All right, Smithy, talking about good problems to have, I'll look forward to the next chapter. Take it easy, and thanks very much.
Cheers, Chris. It was my pleasure, mate. I've enjoyed it as usual. Stay well. Race clean. Well, yeah. Keep the rubber side down.
I'll try my best. Double race this weekend. We'll see what happens.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks,
Good
Brian.
luck.